Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm a 17-year-old female working as a cashier at a popular thrift store. I've been there for approximately 8 months, and I love my job and my coworkers. A common thing that I've noticed is that unfortunately, anytime a new younger female cashier starts working, we've had quite a few since people quit or fall through, she will be hit on by plenty of older guys, and I was no exception to that. I've never had to deal with creepy or weird customers until this job, and I work in the food industry before, so maybe that's why. We, of course, get a handful of regulars, and while I've had a few creepy older guys hit on me before, one even looking me up on Facebook for my name tag and messaging me, there's a regular that comes in all the time. I want to say he's in his late 40s or something, and while he's always nice, my manager has pointed out his obsession with me. I was called in the office the other day so she could show me how he acts and such with the surveillance cameras. Just a list of what's been pointed out to me that I didn't really notice before. 1. He comes in at roughly the same time that I'm working every day, and apparently doesn't show up on my days off. I work closing most of the time, so he comes in around 6 p.m. 2. When he comes in, he will immediately look at the register I almost always work at and will do a double take looking for me. 3. He usually buys one bullshit item, spending about 15 minutes in the store usually. My manager has pointed out that he needs to buy something, or else he knows it will look weird. 4. Every time without fail, he will go to my register. And even when I was on the floor doing recovery, he asked me to check him out because I'm his favorite cashier. If there's a shorter line, it doesn't matter to him. He will stay at my register waiting and watching me. 5. He lingers around after buying something just to talk to me, showing me things on his phone, making sure there's no one else in line. And my manager said he approaches me when I'm alone so he can talk to me without holding up a line. 6. He commented on my hickeys that I failed to cover up before on my neck, making weird remarks here and there. He says he usually checks because there's always about 1 to 2. 7. He said I would look good as blonde, which isn't inherently weird, but paired with everything else, I guess. 8. When I wasn't wearing makeup, he would say something like, "You seem out of sorts recently." I've started wearing makeup again recently, and he's commented saying that he likes that I'm back to my old self. 9. I've noticed weird flirty remarks with him, but I've always brushed it off because customers are always kinda weird, and I deal with that often anyway. 10. He will lean over the register counter to talk to me closer, just his body language in general. And 11. He does a double take when he leaves too, keeping his eyes on me. These are just things that have been pointed out to me by my manager. She's like a protective mother with me, and says every time he comes in, she watches the cameras just to keep an eye on him. I watched the surveillance with her, and after all of that piled up, I'm starting to be more wary. For now, all we can do is just sit and watch. We have no reason to kick him out of the store or anything, and my general manager, being the dipshit that he is, wouldn't care anyway. It's just another customer to him. He wouldn't let me change my name tag after I told him about a customer looking me up on Facebook, saying it's policy, and in general making me feel like an idiot, like I'm overreacting. I'm opening tomorrow morning, so I doubt that I'll see him. He probably came in today, but I requested today off, So, he's probably confused with my schedule right now. Well, I don't know. The donation guys and I are pretty close, at least with 3 of them, and I'm told to call them up front if he starts being weird. Kinda using a code phrase that's inconspicuous enough that the guy doesn't even realize. Thank you guys for following the story. I have more information, and here's what happened tonight. My stalker came around 1 p.m. today, an hour and a half before my shift started. Apparently, he bought one thing and asked if someone quit, because I wasn't there. And after buying the item, he walked out, then came back in a few minutes later. He walked around the store looking for something or someone, and then headed to the back. He looked around some more and went to the restroom. Our public restroom is in the employees only area, so it's not unusual. What is unusual is him coming back in and looking around. An hour before the store closed, he came in again. I freaked out because I wasn't expecting to see him. So I headed to the back, told my manager, and also the donation attendants. The manager told everyone to go out on the floor, have a few pretend to be shoppers, and also keep watch. She kept watch in the office. I needed to stay at the register to get his phone number and to record our conversation. I'm 99% sure that he knew he was being watched. He actually tried to leave my line and get in the other cashiers, but since my manager was watching, she called her to the office before he got checked out. So, he checked out with me, talking as he usually does. But I'm sure he was uncomfortable since I was obviously anxious and we had a coworker's girlfriend out front to take a picture of what he drives. I have 2 separate voice recordings. The first being him grabbing a cart and making small talk with me as he walks by the register, and next, me checking him out. The coworker's girlfriend took a picture of his car and he parks in the parking lot of the store next door. I'm assuming to stay out of the camera's view, but I'm not really sure. She said that he circled the parking lot 4 times before leaving. Not really sure why. I went home and told my parents everything that's been going on, and I gave my dad his phone number to find information, and he found an address. He drove about an hour to get to the car and see go it lined up. Lo and behold, the cars he took pictures of matched what a co-worker's girlfriend saw. The one she saw earlier had a back license plate, no front one I'm assuming. We have his license plate now, and even know his address. His address is actually about an hour away from my job, so I'm assuming he works nearby. Nothing pulled up on the sex offender registry with his name, but everyone's being watchful now. Latest update. I'm sorry for not updating on how everything turned out. I'm happy to say that he hasn't come in for the past few weeks now, and I hope I won't have to see him again. I would get really anxious when he came in. I would hide in the back, take my medication, and stay away from the register. I think he realized that we were watching him, so hopefully that's the end of that, and he's not in business or something. Thank you to everyone for all the great advice, and thank you for telling me your personal stories. I feel much safer at work now. This could have gone horribly wrong, but I was so happy his behavior was pointed out to me, so I could take precautions. If you are facing a similar situation, take all the necessary measures. Don't skip out on your safety, 'cause you never know what could happen. This literally just happened, so I'll try not to ramble too much. I work an evening shift, so I get home at about 10 p.m. most nights. Tonight, about 2.5 blocks from my house, I'm at a stop sign behind a big red truck who's turning left. It's late, We're on a 2-lane 20 miles per hour limit residential street. So when it takes the truck a long minute to turn with no cross traffic, I'm wondering, what the heck? But I don't really care. I'm not a fast driver or ever in any real hurry on the road. He creeps through his turn really, really slow. And now I'm more alert. And now he's out of the way enough. I see that he's going slow to watch the car in front. It's a little black car parked on the road and not on the curb. The passenger door is open and a guy is standing there yelling at somebody but couldn't see who. The car was on but the lights were off, so I assume they aren't driving and go around in a wide arc, slower than normal, but nowhere near as slow as the truck that turned. Half a block later, I see headlights behind me. They don't speed up on me or give any indication that anything is wrong. They stay about a half block behind me. I've got no more stop signs and a straight shot home, so I'm not even thinking about the car behind me. I turn the car off, open my door a crack, and shuffle around for my phone, my bag, and etc. But then, they freaking stopped in front of my driveway. I slam and lock my door fast, and then the passenger door opens and the same guy gets out. At this point, I'm debating whether to call my husband, who's inside but probably asleep, or maybe the police. And I settle on the police when the interior light turned on, and I see it's 2 not-so-small men looking my way. The one who got out said out loud for me to hear, "It's right here, man. The door just shut. I'm telling you, it's right here." He sounds drunk, and I've got 911 dialed and ready for as soon as he takes a single step closer. But instead, he gets back in the car, and they sit there a minute longer with the interior lights on, and I swear we locked eyes. I'm shaking. I can't figure out if I'm going to start crying or yell at them. And they zoom off way faster than they pulled up. I sit in the car for 6 whole minutes, waiting to see which way they go and to be sure that they left, which they did drive off all the way out of my sight, but back towards the way they came. Then I went in and I cried when I realized that they stopped a few feet short of where our security camera would have captured faces. This area is known for petty crime, vandalism, and bike thievery, not violence towards strangers. I don't want to drive anymore. I don't want to know what they wanted. Though, I do want some pepper spray on my keychain now. My name is Rebecca. My family and friends call me Becky for short. I will not use my last name for privacy reasons, but I am a pretty 21-year-old blonde female with a voluptuous figure. I have a habit of turning heads wherever I go, which is not always a good thing, because sometimes creepy guys follow me too. I go to a community college and I work in a diner as a waitress to make ends meet. Well, this all happened a few months ago. It was a very cold winter evening. I have a 5-minute walk from my bus stop to my apartment building. Usually there are plenty of people moving about, but this evening I was walking to my apartment alone, and I see a huge man walking towards me in the other direction. He wore a black mask over his head where you could just see his blue eyes, and he wore a black leather jacket. This guy was huge that it was intimidating, and I mean huge, 6 foot tall and built like a professional bodybuilder. I kept my head down as to not make eye contact as I wanted to walk quickly past him and back home again. I just had a 5-minute walk to my apartment building. If I walked fast, I could get there in no time. Unfortunately, Things did not work out according to plan because as soon as I walked past this huge man, I was painfully aware that he stopped and slowly started to follow me in my direction. Alarm bells of panic and goosebumps hit me, but I kept telling myself that I am overthinking. But just when I was thinking of outmaneuvering this hulk of a man, I felt my lights go out as I fell to the sidewalk unconscious. He hit me hard with those big hard fists of his, immediately knocking me out. And when I woke up, I found myself in a strange room. It looked like a child's dollhouse. What's worse, he dressed me as a little toy doll tied to a chair. I could see, but the room was dim with a swinging lantern light overhead. I saw that I could not even yell for help since all the walls were padded and soundproof to prevent such things. I was tied to a chair, true, but my mouth was free. Soon, I saw the door slowly open up and the muscle-bound man came in. He was still wearing a ski mask over his whole face and head, but he was wearing only bodybuilding posing trunks. I must say he did keep his incredibly muscle-bound body in tip-top shape. But this guy was a true psycho, stalking and kidnapping females and having them dress up like little toy dolls in a dollhouse for his kinky fetishes. He had a plate of chopped beef franks mixed with pork and beans as he fed me and talked. He talked about all the horrible acts he would do to me before he killed me. And when I asked him why he was doing this, he just looked at me and laughed. After I finished eating, he left the room saying he had to go to work first at his night job. What job he did not say, but when he came back, he told me that he was going to enjoy me. And what was disgusting is that he made me call him Daddy, which I did out of pure fear of the vile man. When the man closed the door and left, I started to panic. I didn't know what to do. Then I saw a telephone in the corner, and I decided to move my chair towards it. I reached it, and I pushed the receiver off with my nose as I dialed 911. I saw this kind of thing done in late-night movies a lot, but it did work for me here. The police dispatcher was very good at her job, and they managed to trace where I was being held captive, and got to me and freed me within 12 minutes. This stalker bodybuilding psycho's dollhouse dungeon was not far from my apartment building actually. When the psycho stalker got home from work, the police immediately arrested him. It was found out that this guy was a serial killer of young females who looked like his ex-girlfriend who left him for another man, similar to what the serial killer Ted Bundy was doing with the females he was killing. And by the way, he also worked nights as a security guard. Soon later, the police told me at the station house, where I was met by my parents, that this psycho stalker bodybuilder should be in jail for a very long time and may even get the death penalty for all the females that he had murdered. I was relieved to hear this. I was very lucky. I was the only female to escape this stalker. So, to this psycho bodybuilder stalker, let's not ever meet again.
I was accused of being a stalker. Did I do what I was accused of? Yes. But let me take you to how this started. I was home making dinner. The only 3 other people that were in the house were my 5-year-old son, his friend, and our foreign exchange student, Tina, who was 15 and extremely shy and didn't like talking because she didn't think she spoke English very well. I'm making dinner, as I said, and have my hands buried in a meatloaf and the phone rings. I wipe my hands and answer the phone and some lady's yelling at me. I can't understand her. She keeps yelling. And I got the words son, police, kick, ass. She hung up, and I was standing there with the phone in my mostly wiped hand, very confused. I resumed my meatloaf when the phone rang again. It was the same lady who was a little calmer and said, "Stop calling here. My son doesn't want anything to do with you. I already called the police." And I said, You've been calling me. I didn't call you. I don't even know who you are. The police will contact you and throw you in jail. I hope you rot in there. I didn't know what this lady was doing or where she was getting her information from. I was making dinner. My son was playing with a friend in the next room and Tina was studying. Later the same day, the police department called, asking if they could come over and speak with me. We set up a time and I'm almost in tears. Keep in mind I'm in my mid-30s and didn't even pull pranks when I was young. I was one who always followed the rules and taught my kids the same thing. And now I'm being accused of being a stalker? This may not seem scary, but I was terrified, thinking this lady is going to have me thrown in jail without so much as an explanation from me. Not that I had one. I was confused. 2 officers pull up and I open the door. They asked me to lock up my dogs as I had 3 Great Danes at the time, so I lock them up out back and come back to the door and tell them to come in. The kids were at the neighbor's house because I didn't want them to see me being arrested if it came to that. We sit at the kitchen table and I get them each a bottle of water with them asking about who lives here and where they are, and I'm sitting there shaking visibly. I'm so nervous, my mouth is dry and I can't swallow and I can barely speak. Just then my husband comes home. He's the one who can talk anyone calm and practically could sell oil to Saudi Arabia. He's so smooth. He's talking to the officers, and even though he wasn't here, he knows I'm not stalking anyone and that these accusations are ridiculous. They say the person said I called them and hung up. I said I was making a meatloaf and answered the phone with meatloaf residue on my hands, and some lady began yelling at me. And I only understood some police kick and ass, and she hung up. And then she called back, and I understood her better, and she said that I was going to jail and her son didn't want anything to do with me. And finally the officer says, "Well, I don't think you had anything to do with this, but she has your number, so someone called. Do you think your kids have anything to do with this?" I told him my little one was playing with a friend in the dining room, which I could see at all times, and my foreign exchange student was studying at the time, and she's quiet and there's no way she would stalk someone. Plus, I was right next to the phone. There was another phone in my bedroom and no one ever went there, so it couldn't have happened. They gave me the phone number I was supposed to have called and didn't recognize it. So they asked if they could speak to Tina, who was 15. She was shy, and I didn't really want to scare her, and they said they would just calmly speak to her, so I said okay. She came out, sat at the table with us, and they were asking her name, how she liked it there, and if she made any friends, and if she called any friends today. She said that she didn't, but then she said that she tried to call Jamie, but went over there instead but came back home because everyone was upset about someone stalking their son. We came to find out she plugged an old phone into the jack in her room and it worked, so she called from there, and she hung up after 2 rings because she decided to walk over there since they lived 4 houses away. My neighbors were getting calls from one of their son's ex-girlfriends, and Tina just happened to call at the same time, and they hit *69 and called my house thinking that I was the stalker. Now *69 was very new and I didn't know about it at the time. We had a huge laugh when the police called and told them that I was not the stalker. It was their neighbor, who they knew, and we were cool.
This happened yesterday after I finished the night shift at around 3 a.m. I work at a store of a big fast food chain to pay for my university. Our staff changes frequently because of a lot of students and migrants working at our place. So you don't get to know each other very well. Everybody has their own social life, and it is very, very rare for coworkers to establish friendships outside of working hours. But still, you know the people on your shift, and the night shift has particularly few workers. One of my co-workers, Jasir, started to get interested in me. Not that I noticed. I am young and dumb. I like being friendly, and which is something important for later, I have a hard time saying no. In December of 2019, our store threw a Christmas party at a pub. I went and I had a great time, but I also made plans for later that night. Because of that, I wanted to leave early, which made Jasir also want to leave early, despite the fact that he neither needed nor planned it beforehand, which made me so uncomfortable. Unfortunately, he didn't know how to get to the train station, and I did. So I couldn't say no, and I just let him tag along. When we arrived at the train station, it came to light that there was no train that he could take to get home. None. He did not check beforehand. He did not ask me, and he just wanted to tag along with me. I was super uncomfortable, and instead of taking the train to the main station, he got into my train and only got out when I insisted that he change his trains at another big station. In January 2020, Jasir asked me out for coffee and I agreed. I thought, he just wants to be friends. He doesn't have any and can only rely on his coworkers. If something happens, then I can just nope out. And so I went. First, it was okay-ish. We mostly talked about work-related stuff because we don't share any hobbies. We are not the same age and we don't have the same mother tongue. Jasir didn't like talking about work and nothing more. He started talking about how different I was from the other coworkers, and how nice of a person I am and how good my charisma is. Then, he asked if we could get to know each other better. I genuinely didn't want to, and still don't. Jasir is not my type, neither as a person nor from his looks, especially his looks. Even if I sound superficial, while I am in my early 20s, Jasir is at least in his early 30s. I have no problem with age gaps, which is a story for another subreddit, but I am not attracted to men that dress like teenagers. Instead of telling Jasir a straight no, I told him that I was not interested in having a boyfriend. He didn't take that seriously and told me that I would change my mind. I told him that I wouldn't, and he again was not really on board with that opinion. So I elaborated my opinion 3 times in German and 1 time in English to get it very clear. He always changes to English if he does not get something or thinks he misunderstood. And even though he heard it clearly, he just doesn't like it. I mean, obviously, my opinion is going to change if I explain it in English rather than in German. We left the conversation with him still not convinced, and me being really not interested in a second meeting. He quit soon after and I foolishly assumed that I was free. But whenever he came to my workplace to place an order, he would ask me out to eat something. And every time I would postpone whatever I said the last time. Maybe because of finals, because of travel, because of anything I could get my hands on. Then came COVID-19 that hit Germany in March, and I didn't see him anymore. I blocked him on social media in April, and I hope that that was the last thing to happen. But oh boy, that was not the case. Today, I finished my shift at 3 a.m. and left with my female and very Asian coworker Wei to catch the next train. We take different trains, so we decided to wait in the main lobby until I need to go to my platform. In that time, Jasir appeared. He just finished his shift and was on his way home. Wei asked him which train he needed to get, and he said that he was walking home. And while the conversation went on, I got closer to Wei to get some space between me and Jasir. Wei did not grasp how uncomfortable I was in this situation, and then she just walked away. What did Jasir do? He placed himself between me and Wei, right in my vision line, and every fiber in my body felt how he barged into my personal space. I decided that I could not take a private conversation with him, and I just said, "Oh, look, I need to get to my platform," so I could end it. But then Jasir followed me, through the main lobby, through the train station, and into the elevator, and into the train. I was internally screaming and walked through the train until I saw another passenger. I sat down in the row of seats next to me. And then Jasir followed. As if every bit of luck had just left me, the other passenger moved seats and went away, so I was back alone. Jasir talked and I showed clear signs of not wanting to continue the conversation. I hoped he would leave before the train departed, but he didn't. Mind you, the train goes in the opposite direction of his house and is 1 hour walking distance to my workplace. There is no way in hell this man could get anything out of taking that train except following me and continuing the conversation. I was freaked out and I told him in English that he was acting very weird. Maybe I should have used a different word, but English is also not my first language, and at that point, I only thought about escaping. I could not let him see my station or he could easily find my home. I don't live rural, but at 3 a.m., there is nobody on the streets, so him following me home was terrifying. I thought about getting off a station earlier, but then I would need to get a cab, for which I did not have cash on me. Or I needed to walk the rest and he could still follow. I decided to get up at the next station, let him get out of the train first, and then just stay inside while the doors close. And it fortunately worked, but only after telling him clear that this was not my station. I would not get out and he would not get back in. I even held my hand out to stop him from coming back, and he stayed outside after the conductor shouted at us to let the door close. So let's rewind. He is way older than me, but does not get the concept of me not wanting to be in a relationship with him. Whenever he does not like an answer, he switches to English, because it just might be me misunderstanding. He followed me 2 times into my train and almost home, without ever thinking about how creepy that behavior is. So, Jasir, let's not meet again. Hi, I'm a 12-year-old female named Anna. I will not tell you my last name due to privacy reasons. And I live in New York City. I love to go to Coney Island Amusement Park in Brooklyn, New York, especially with my best friend Sally, who is really my only friend. One Saturday, I was walking through a large New York park on my way home when a man beckoned me to come to him. He was a stranger with a nicely trimmed white beard sitting on a park bench. He looked very Victorian looking in dress, wearing a derby hat and black suit and spats of the period on his feet. This stranger looked nice, but strongly out of date in 2020 springtime New York. My mother told me to never talk to strangers, but he had a pleasant face and asked me nicely to come to him, so which I did. My mom told me to never speak to strangers, I said rather coldly to him, not really meaning to sound this hard to him. This strange dapper man looked me up and down and replied smiling. Smart mom you have, young lass, he continued. My name is Mortimer Johnson, and what's your name, sweetie, if I may ask? He said in his English-sounding voice, which was quite pleasant. It had a ring to it. I'm Anna, as I then gave him my last name. The stranger then laughed and said, You see, I know you, and you know me. We're not strangers anymore. I then looked at him and said, Knowing each other's name is not knowing, I said quickly. You are correct, my fine young lass, he answered me, still smiling. I then looked at him and smiled back and thought if this guy is Chester the molester, he is sure a pretty nice guy so far. The stranger then looked me up and down as he continued smiling at me. as then I started to really think that he may actually be Chester the molester. "I bet you are not satisfied with your appearance or life," he said, concerned. "What do you know about my life?" I asked, more polite this time. "I see things, my young lass. You are on the plump side, and many mean girls make fun of your appearance. Except your pal Sally, of course, and your dear old widowed mother is having trouble in paying the rent," he continued. "Am I right about any of this?" he asked me as I nodded my head. "But how do you know all about me, sir?" I asked in my sweet voice. "I see things, girl, and I want to help people like you," he replied, smiling. Mortimer Johnson then took from his pocket a shiny gold coin that was actually larger than a silver dollar. He then handed it to me. "Take this coin, lassie. You have 2 big wishes, but only 2. Choose wisely with them. I will be watching you from afar," he spoke. "The choices you make in life are up to you, but these 2 wishes, when you flip the coin once, can make your life a whole lot better and easier," he said. "But why give me this coin for 2 wishes?" I asked. The stranger then put a hand gently on the side of my right cheek. "I told you, young lady, I like to help people like you," he said. And before I could ask another question, the man got up from his bench and got on the bus that just stopped. "Remember, honey, you only get 2 wishes with your coin. Make your choices wisely," he said happily as the bus took off down the New York street. I then looked down at my big old coin. I just get 2 big flips and 2 big wishes, and that's all. Well, it's better than nothing, I thought to myself. I then looked at the bus till it disappeared down the street. The next day, Sunday, I showed Sally my gold coin and about my day with a stranger named Mortimer Johnson. Sally was a good friend, but she did not believe a word of it and then started to laugh. But it was a pleasant laughter, and it wasn't mean at all, and it made me laugh too. "Have you made any wishes yet?" she then asked seriously to me. "No, Sally, not yet," I replied, but I knew I would soon. That night alone in my room, I made a wish that my mom would get a higher paying job and make our lives easier in our New York apartment, as I gave the big gold coin a flip. Then, I decided to make another wish and wish that I could lose all my 12-year-old fat and then blossom into a lovely young girl, as I quickly gave the gold coin another flip. When I did this, I did not feel any different, nor did the coin glow in my hand after each flip. I almost decided to throw the coin out of the window, but decided to hold on to it and maybe spend it later. I wasn't really sure yet. The next year though, in 2021, things started to happen. My life and my mother's life started to change for the better. My mom got a good business job in the center of New York and could make ends meet for the both of us. And through exercise, I lost all my baby fat, and not only that, I blossomed very happily into a blonde, beautiful 13-year-old girl with a large bosom and curvaceous figure. I even noticed quite a few boys giving me excited looks that they thought I was good looking as well. My friend Sally, who was a true friend, was not jealous at all now that I was a beautiful teen girl with no money problems, which I was thankful for. And one Sunday, I was flying my kite and saw Mortimer Johnson walking up to me. I thanked him greatly because the 2 big wishes from the gold coin did come true for me. And number 1, my mom got out of money problems. And number 2, I lost all my plumpness and then blossomed into quite the beauty. Mortimer just smiled at this and said that he was watching me from afar. He then told me that we could become good friends if I wanted to be. Friendlier than we were now with each other, as he then laid his hand around my waist and started to pull me close for a kiss. I then pulled away from him and ran away. Stupidly, I did not call the police right away, but did manage to point him out in the park when he was looking the other way when I was with my mother. Once my mom looked at him, she turned as white as a ghost and told me that that man was a child molester named George Thompson, not Mortimer Johnson like he said. She told me that I was lucky to escape with my life since this man murdered a few kids already. Plus, the gold coin story was all a lie to get me to like him better so he could be friends with me and later on molest me and probably murder me once he gained my trust. My mother went on to say that the gold coin was actually a fake coin from Coney Island amusement park to fool young children who didn't know any better like myself, who fell for it. Sadly, some kids with their very lives. My mom then quickly called the police and had George Thompson, the child pedophile and stalker, arrested. I was very lucky to have a smart mother like this. I guess the gold coin did give me one more lucky wish in having this predator and stalker arrested, hopefully for a very long time, so he could no longer prey on young children. I can cut the intro to this short by saying that my parents were busy looking over my sick sister when I was young. I got social media around the time when I was 9 and often wasn't wearing enough clothes during videos, and I wasn't monitored. I was always looking for more attention, and when my account didn't take off, the next thing I asked for was to download a live stream app. This particular app, if you provided your location, it would show in the corner of the screen for the viewers. So anyone who watched my stream knew the name of my town and my country. And I often wore my school uniform in videos too, because I wasn't really educated on internet safety. A few people came over from my account, but a stranger took interest in my life and started watching my videos. One thing led to another, and I was being groomed by this man. Over the months that this occurred, I only saw his face once, but it kind of made everything clear to me, and I ghosted him completely. I didn't touch any technology for nearly a year, and I didn't tell my parents until the next year. And when I say groomed, I mean emotionally manipulated into sending explicit pictures, which he then used to blackmail me into sending more. You know, the classic 2000s child predatory stuff. Around the time that I ghosted him, an old white car would show up on my walk home, which is actually me walking to a friend's house. Let's call it Anne's house, which he may have thought was mine. The windows were tinted and the plates were messed up that you couldn't make out more than 2 letters. The car would be there every single afternoon, parked near the curb, and it would then start as we reached the crossing, speeding at us and nearly hitting Anne on a few occasions, but mostly I was the target. The car even followed us to her house one day with the driver's window halfway down. I got a look at the driver's face and it was 100% the man that I have been talking to online. At this point, my parents weren't even aware of the grooming, but I confided in Anne, who threw a brick at the car, something that I do not condone, so I told her off for it multiple times. The car was always around for most of my 4th and 6th year, until I went to high school. We moved houses nearly 2 years ago, and we've had a lot of new neighbors moving in as the young couples who built the houses around us moved out. I was talking to one of our new neighbors this morning as our paths crossed on our morning walk. She's an older woman, maybe in her 60s, and for her privacy, we'll call her Deb. Deb is an absolute sweetheart, and she was telling me about her grandkids visit all the time, and that there would be plenty of chances for me to babysit or help with the garden for money, seeing as her and her husband are old. We got busy talking, and I walked her home, seeing as it's just down the road from me anyway. She asked if I wanted to run home and asked my parents if I could come in for coffee and some banana bread, but I immediately refused when I saw the car. It was the same old Toyota Camry with the tinted windows. It was the one with the messed up license plate and the dent on the driver's side door from the day that I told my friend, and she pegged a brick at it. And here are the top comments for my last video. And here's the riddle for this video. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.